Good morning. Welcome again to Morning Devotions. Thank you again for our time together. Well, it's Friday. The scene is gone. Traffic is back to its normal, well, whatever normal is. When Shasha was little, we used to call it, traffic is terrific. Services tonight, all three campuses, 7 o'clock. We're back in our series on prophecy. I'll be teaching part 1 on the Antichrist. Right now, let's get into the book of 1 Peter chapter 1. Let me teach you a couple of quick thoughts about this beautiful salvation that we have. Beginning with verse 18, "For you know that it was not with perishable things such as silver or gold that you were redeemed." We'll see how we were born again in just a minute. "From the empty way of life handed down to you from your forefathers." Now, when you look back on your pre-salvation life, never look back on it as this glorious thing that you want to testify about. It was an empty way of life. I've heard people, when they testify about their past life, honestly, it sounds like they miss it. It sounds like it was so wonderful. I don't know why people would ever get saved, because your life was so wonderful. But Peter is very clear, not Paul. Peter is very clear. He says, the empty way of life. Life before Jesus was empty. Life without Jesus is an empty way of life. There is no fulfillment in life without Jesus. But then he continues down here. He says in verse 23, "Now you have been born again, not with perishable seed," there's that word again, "but with the imperishable, through the living and enduring word of God." How is a person born again? The living, enduring, incorruptible word of God is planted within our hearts. And then as the sower, the parable of the sower and Jesus in John 8 show, we hold that word in our hearts. We make a choice. We've had the word sown in our hearts, and then we hold that word in our hearts. And then we know by experience truth, and that truth sets us free from the power of sin. That's how we're born again. This is why it's very important that when we lead people to Christ, we don't lead people to a decision based on a testimony. A testimony can lead people to join a church. A testimony can lead a person to join a social movement or a social club. But only the incorruptible word of God can bring a person into a saving knowledge of Christ. Please, testimonies are beautiful, but even a testimony has to be filled with the word of God. People aren't saved again by hearing what Jesus did in your life. People are born again because you planted the incorruptible word of God in their lives.